All right, we are back at hashtag 360 stupid. I am mic check, mic check. We split the podcast and it looks like I might not have saved it, so this will be the second half, but I got backup recording, so we'll see what happens.
Again, right. But that's not the promise. The promise here is to reduce preventable gun deaths.
Just saying I want to win.
The goal is not to stop gun deaths. The goal is to reduce gun deaths from those who are killed that should not be killed. Wow. Motherfuckers talk like they're gods.
I want to win this election and I want to fight it on the issues we're going to win.
I won my election standing up for gun violence in Orange County, California. I'm a Cub Scout leader, for crying out loud. I let a grown-up give my 6-year-old a BB gun, and I cowered for my life. Like, there is a way for...
I cowered for my life from a BB gun. Holy motherfucking, this weak motherfucker is in charge of us. Wow.
People to use guns appropriately, and there are ways to have sensible gun violence prevention. Nobody's going to come take your gun. Maybe they should. I don't know you well enough. I
Why should they take my
gun? But my point is,
that's what scares people. Say things like that.
Gun violence prevention.
You see how she completely misses the greatest fucking statement there.
Is the right thing to do. And I will trade off winning an election for saving a life any day.
Not what we're debating.
I'll trade off an election to save a life any day. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, some bullshit right there, huh?
No one's against that here. I think strong man isn't here.
There's a lot of ground that can be gained with personal responsibility. This is an issue that conservatives will go for. Who was trained on that weapon? How were they trained? What are the safety mechanisms in the home? And I'm a big fan of gun owner insurance.
This is very interesting. If you own a car can kill people, then your car has to be insured, or the driver has to be insured. Gun can kill people, but there's no insurance if you shot and killed the wrong person. Very fascinating idea. Not my idea, but my idea will absolutely stop all gun violence. 100% guaranteed.
We let people have a car? No, not unless they have insurance. We'll let them have a gun. Do you got insurance if you have training? Nope, you just take it and you walk out the door. Responsible gun owners will go for that. I think that's
No, I won't, because to have it, you have to have registration. And the gun lobby has vociferously resisted any efforts to register guns, because they say if the government knows what the guns are, that makes it easier for the government to come get them. I'm saying that we have to...
That's the point of the Second Amendment. Guns are to protect us from the government that we worship and pay 30% of our money. The government that has tanks and bombs and massive guns.
To go with that at this conversation head on, not ducking and diving, not saying we're going to solve every shooting, but we have to say there's a real way to attack this, to reduce the numbers. Reduce the numbers. If I save 10, 20, 100 lives, I think that's valuable to do, and that person not get mowed down on the lawn or in the school in a theater.
No argument. All right, let's bring on he is the author of American Psycho and Less Than Zero, who now hosts the Bret Easton Ellis podcast and just published his first work of nonfiction, White. Please welcome Bret Easton Ellis.
Bret Easton Ellis. Writers are something else. Completely different type of people.
I'm sure. Pleasure to meet you. I've been a fan of yours for quite some time.
Oh, thank you.
Because I do read.
Yes.
I have guns and I do read.
Yes.
I do both. And, you know, you were always kind of the bad boy of literature.
I was.
And I always liked that about you. I like bad boys and I like people. So, what I wanted to ask you about the new book, I've always known you as a novelist.
Right.
And now you've come out with a book that is nonfiction. And it's sort of the inverse. I remember Tom Wolfe, Bonfire of the Vanities, and that he was always a nonfiction guy. And it's like he came out with this great novel. And
yes.
And I want to ask you kind of that question in reverse. Why couldn't you say about the subject matter you're addressing in this book, which is political correctness and social media and groupthink and that kind of stuff. Why couldn't you address that anymore in fiction? Why did you go for nonfiction?
Well, because I thought there was too much fiction out there in the world anyway, and that there was
can't out-fiction.
You really can't. And so I wanted to write a book, and I think White is this book, about the trajectory of Gen X and how we were born in the 60s, we came of age in the 70s in a time that was very free of parental guidance. We were on our own. The world wasn't made for children then, and so I think that aided in our independence. We had an immense amount of freedom. And then moving in through the 80s, and then moving from the analog world into the digital world, and then ending up in the summer of 2018 thinking, where in the fuck are we? What happened? All of these freedoms, freedom of expression that we were allowed in the 70s and the 80s and to a degree in the 90s. And suddenly we were stuck there in the summer of 2018, politically and culturally going, what the fuck happened? How did this happen to us? And that's really what the book is about. It's about the trajectory of a generation.
How did that happen? You talk a lot about the culture of victimhood. Why did we become a victim culture?
Look, I think a lot of what happens...
All right. Good question. The social psychological engineering of the United States is that we are the victim, and that's why we have to go to that country and bomb their children. We are the victims on this side of the ocean by people who are still wearing sandals during war. You can't have a hero without victims. You can't have a hero without a villain. Who's the hero? The government is the hero. Who's the villain? They're the villain. Who's the victims? We're the victims. That's how social psychological engineering works.
Happens because one generation reacts against another. And when we talk about social justice warriors or victimhood, we're talking about a generation that is reacting against Generation X, which was very cool, very aloof, very indifferent to things, wasn't so overly emotional. And
is that you, Gen X?
I think, yeah, no, I was Gen X. I'm one of those first years, depending on what chart you see. And I think the nihilism of Gen X was what millennials are reacting to or reacting against.
What's the problem with social justice warriors?
Oh no, I'm not saying there's a problem. Believe me, I think resistance is great. I think
sometimes they go too far. I'll answer that question.
There's overreach.
There's no overreach among. I mean, you criticized the movie, or not correct, but you said Black Panther on Twitter. You said you didn't think it deserved a Best Oscar nod. I don't either. I don't like any comic book movies. They're not great movies. Not one either. But if you say that's somehow a hate crime.
Right, you're racist. And also, the things that I love
but can we go through the whole list of all the movies that got a Best Oscar nod that never should have ever deserved to get it?
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, what does that mean?
Yes, you can. But why is that relevant to this?
But I'm still on this social justice warrior why that came up in the negative context. I mean, am I wrong?
I think it goes back to overreach because I did a podcast that was about 2.5 hours long, and for about 2 minutes I talked about how in the town there was this perception of Black Panther as being overly representative of something in terms of the Oscars, and that people were talking about that. And then I talked about how much I thought it was a subpar Marvel movie, but I also talked about how much I liked those opening images of Wakanda. We had never seen anything like that before. No one talks about that. They just talk about, the racist douche who dissed the subpar Marvel movie, and that's part of the problem with social justice warriors.
Here's what's wrong with social justice warriors. They're not interested in justice. They're interested in clicks. They're interested in getting clicks. Oh, please. What, you don't think so?
Well, I think that you're being completely overly broad about, because the people that I know who do that work are not the people interested in click, and you've never heard their names because they're not trying to be on television and they're not trying to be in the spotlight, and they're going to courthouses every day.
Okay, but we're not talking about that, and you know that.
No, but what you can't say social justice warriors. Well, who are you talking about?
Okay, if we're talking about that, we agree.
Give a name. I don't know who you're talking about because the people that I know are not doing what you said.
I'm going to read something because
Go for it.
Thank you.
It's your show.
It's all of our shows, right? We're not here, but it's all of our shows. Okay. Now, again, I don't know everything about this because I'm not an expert at social media, but I'm friends with Barry Weiss, right? Okay, so I'm reading her profile in Vanity Fair. I thought this said a lot. A woman who I think is also a writer, her name is Gabriella Cameron, criticized Barry for something Barry said. I don't think Barry is really that out there, but the social justice warriors hate and attack her. I'm talking about the ones on Twitter, not your friends in the courtroom. Okay, here's what this woman said to Barry White, tweeted, "Do feminism and the entire profession of journalism a favor and stop writing." Stop writing in caps. Okay, I first would like to point out, that's not a criticism. Stop writing? That's the best you can do? All right. Then she and Barry meet at a conference. They get to know each other. They're friends now. She tweets, "I was partially motivated," talking about her former tweet, "I was partially motivated by the desire for likes and retweets, wanting to cultivate a brand on Twitter. It was at Barry's expense, knowing that she, like me, is a complex person." Well, Barry's a complex person. I don't know about this.
But the problem you make is you put that person in the category of social justice warriors, and that's not what that is. The social justice warrior is the person who shows up.
I think there's a bit of an overlap.
No, I think I think that you're conflating the two, and there's no overlap. The people who do the work are the warriors. Those are the real warriors.
Well, that's lots of other people would ascribe that name to themselves.
So there may be people disguising themselves and taking a name.
But I think we're social justice warriors. It is that. But I think there has been an ironic use of the term social justice warrior, and I think it's used ironically when there is a social justice warrior that does overreach and starts doing things like that. What you're talking about is completely authentic and cool, but this stuff that goes on Twitter, which is of course all toxic and all full of crap, is a different kind of social justice warrior. It's a fake social justice.
It's people just trying to build a reputation to be part of a social media nation that may or may not even be real, and it's also dividing us apart. Social media is not designed to bring us together. It's to bring us to...
I disagree.
Just Twitter. It's actually...
I disagree. Big time. Social media is bringing a great amount of people together. That's actually why it's not going to ever end. It's social media is connecting people from all walks of life and reconnecting people from their past lives. Social media is massively connecting people. Massively connecting people. What these old guys are fucking yapping about is the typical cantankerous manner that us old geezers get into. They're angry. But the point is that they're just way off. Way off. Let's take this iPod, iTunes, podcast. We're actually everywhere. So we're connecting. You listening to me is connecting us. And had it not been for social media, how could I have ever connected with you in this manner? It would have to be one-on-one, maybe 5, 10 people. But here, like this, a few clicks away from my app, and a microphone from Amazon, we're connecting. This is social media.
Actual legitimate internet sites do this too.
And it's an imagined preference. Oh, if I support this, then I am part of this. Whether I actually show up in the streets or not, that's a different story. So it creates this confusion about what activism is, what's real act.
Yeah. There's all types of activism. And getting on the street is the worst fucking thing you could possibly do. Worst fucking thing. Oh man, shit.
They
track those people.
I'm very curious to get your reaction to this. Draymond Green, among others, he's on the Warriors playing in the gym, an awesome player. He says that owners of sports team, we should stop saying the word owner. You shouldn't say owner. talking about the owner of a sports team. Just because someone was taught that 100 years ago doesn't make that right today. And so when you look at the word owner, it really dates back to slavery. But people own things.
Including people.